Morning, everybody. Welcome to the last day of content of class. Since tomorrow we are doing the review day. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's finished the assignment and is now working on the final assignment. So, yeah. Let's see what we're going to do today. So today, we're going to cover a broad range of topics to fill any sort of bonus content in a way to what we normally would have. And so we have StringStreams that I'll cover, function overloading, and then probably throw in pointers in there as well since we have the time, unless something better comes up. And then tomorrow we are reviewing for the test. And finally on Thursday there will be no lecture because I have a meeting. And also instead I might upload something on Python. You guys can watch it at your own leisure, but it's not part of the class. And then Friday from 9 to 11 you'll have your test. So that is the upcoming appointments. I think I would like to take a minute here to do a quick pointing out of something. Yesterday we all got news that ICE is doing some new regulations and they are forcing all foreign students who are not taking an in-person class to leave the US, or they will potentially be deported. So I ask you strongly to contact your representatives and contact the university and contact everybody you can and try to appeal to the fact that it's kind of wrong in a way to kick these people out because they may not be able to come back and finish their degree. Or some of them, when you graduate as a foreign student, you're giving a 3-year potential work visa where you can gain invaluable experience in the US, which could be useful later on if you go back to your country. And they won't give them that most of the time. So I know a lot of people personally, and I'm sure that you know people, even if you might not know they're foreign, just because they're all over the place. And I just think that it's a very, very sad situation. And basically they're saying that they can't take online classes because if they take an online class, then they gotta leave. And they gotta take in-person classes. But with the virus, the reason we're doing online classes is not for fun. It's because we're trying to stop a pandemic. And so it's a tough situation to be in. So I think that there are better solutions than just to kick people out. So if you know anybody, comfort them. But more importantly, try and talk to your representatives and see if they can delay that. You know, at the very least, if they can add some sort of notice that if the online learning is due to the virus, or if it's because they had a in-person class before, but then they had online because they had no other choice, then, you know, at least they can do that. So, yes, I don't try to talk about ongoing events in the world, but this is something that I think is affecting us all personally. And so, just thought I'd take a minute there to point that out and read more information online about it. There are plenty of places to sign petitions, including change.org and other places, but I think it has to go beyond the computer. I think phone calls need to be made to representatives, letters be written, and action has to happen. Because if we just stay quiet, then these people are gonna just get kicked out. And you know, there's one student in specific who, the first time I thought 135 was the first time I thought, which was a year and a half ago or more. And this person has 2 classes left before they graduate. And both classes potentially may switch to online, and they're foreign. So they'd have to go back to their country and not finish the 2 classes and risk not graduating. 2 classes left. But that's the choice they're facing. And there's more people than that. Like I said, we all know these people, even though they may not tell you. We all know foreign students. because this affects every single foreign student. Every single foreign student. There's no exceptions. Literally every single one of them. Anybody who's here with a visa as a student is affected by this. So, all right, let's go back to teaching. But I just wanted to make you all aware of that. And the university is also aware of this, and they're working with lawyers to see if, like anything, what do lawyers do the best? Find loopholes, right? So if it gets to that, then maybe we'll find some loophole. So anyways, switching to something not as important, we're gonna start coding. So this is what we did last time. We had a grid with a fake storm, except in ours it was backwards. We sort of had like an explosion going on, and you know, the storm, as you have it normally in their game, was coming in. So I said I might show you how to swap that behavior essentially, and it's quite straightforward, because if you think about it, the only times that this the at will run is within the radius of where you don't want the storm to be drawn. So what you basically need to do is you need to flip this backwards so that you draw the storm in everything but the center. You know, and by center I mean the radius where the storm hasn't covered. So the way you change that would be you make these for loops potentially be the entire range of coordinates, so the entire x and y, and then you add an if statement that if the radius, if the x coordinate and the j coordinate and the radius match this range of numbers here, this one's right here, then you won't actually include it in the rendering. So basically you flip the concept of these for loops into if statements, and you also add this in as an if statement, and that basically makes the exception to do that. I can probably show you really fast if you want to see it. So let's just make a new function. Call it storm. Draw storm. And in this function we have again our center and our radius, and I have no idea what the x at the top is. Was that supposed to be the center? I think that was supposed to be the center. Yes. Okay. And so now here, let's just start by just making two for loops that go all through the grid. Typo there. Okay. And then inside of that, we're going to do the same thing, but with another for loop for the other coordinate. And I suppose if your game was 3D, if there was like a height or depth to it, then you just add another loop, essentially. Okay, so this basically means you're going to check every single square in the grid. What you need to do is add a big if statement saying, basically, and I'll write it in English first. If outside of safe zone, if that happens to be the case that we are outside of the safe zone, which means we're outside of the center radius, outside of this, then go ahead and actually change the grid to be actually use INJ here. It's a storm. Okay, so as a very basic sort of example of that, where did this one come from? Let's just do something here by saying if I is equal to 2, just to see what happens, okay? You see that there should be a line drawn horizontally or vertically. Okay, let's fix all the typos that we got. So for int I equals 0, I is less than grid y, I plus plus. Oh, that's random. I forgot I had all this pasted here. So let me just comment that out. Oof, I totally did bad things here. Then oh no, this might explode. I'm fine. Okay. I got worried for a second there that I messed up the code. Okay, cool. All right. Let's call the function so we can see things happen. So for now, let's just go ahead and comment out the entire exploding section of the code. And then let's print the grid. And then let's draw the storm. Let's give it a center of 4, 5, and a save zone of 2. Save radius of 2. And then let's print it again. Okay, so this is the normal one, and then this is the one that we did. So this is just where I equals to 2. So this tells us actually a couple of things here. First, it tells us that we might have screwed up the grid Y and grid X. How did we declare them? We declare them as, where is the array? Grid X and grid Y. Yep. So this is kind of like the issue that we had last time, that we flipped the dimensions and then we fixed it like last minute. So this is something good to do, and I know you already did the assignment, but this is kind of so you can learn. The reason why we were getting before this was because it was trying to measure it vertically, even though we're doing horizontally, because we flipped the coordinates. But now we can see that this is good. So we can see that the SSS is drawn exactly where we expected it to draw. Okay, what if we did or I or j is equal to 4? Now we should get a cross. And there you go. We get a cross indeed. And so you can see that you have full control of what is going to not be drawn with S's and what will be drawn with S's here. And so now all we gotta do is we gotta work this logic into this if statement essentially. And if we do, that's it. We're in business. So let's think about what logic we need. Well, remember how we kind of did the bottom here? We had the radius, and then we had to subtract the radius or add the radius from that. So basically we're saying, well, if we said I is equal to the radius, or let's say not equal to radius actually. And then we said and, just to see j is not equal to radius. Look at what would happen. You would not quite see much happen, but still. J is not equal to radius. Oh, here, this parentheses. I spaced it out like that so that we can make a big if statement, basically. Okay, so this time, we draw a storm on everything except here. And what is our radius? Our radius is supposed to be at 4, 5. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2. Interesting. Oh, because I did radius, that's right. So Okay, so what the radius is 2. So because it's 2, I got to cross there. But what I really meant to do was get the center like that. And did I get these right? The I is related to the, no, I flipped them. What I want is I don't want it to render when it's touching the center. Okay, so there you go. This is not rendering when it's touching the center. Okay, but you can see that you're getting this weird cross symbol like that. That's okay. What we really care about is this not drawing. However, we would have wanted these to draw as well. So it's not enough just to say this. So what happens if we say that? Well, in that case, that's probably going to just do everything storm. Yep, everything but, oh, everything but the center. Okay. If I is not equal, okay, so basically when they're both equal, then you get this. Okay. And so, okay, so this applies for the scenario where we don't want the center. But what if we won't want the nearest area from the center to not be drawn? So like this area here. Okay, because it's kind of like the next step. That's when we can do this kind of math here. And let's just work with one dimension first. So essentially, we're saying that if the current I, which we have seen I to be basically this direction like that, or no, which one's I again? Where's my, I need to see my print. Or here, there's an easy way. We can just see what happens if I do this. If I is equal to x. Or here, just 3. Let's just do that. Just so I can remember which dimension. I think it's the horizontal one. Yeah, okay. So I deals with horizontal stuff. So we're saying, okay, so when do we not want to draw I? Well, we don't want to draw I when it is the center or R minus the center, potentially, or the range of the radius within the center. So if our radius is 2, we don't want to draw I when it's at the line where the center is, where there's one line above the center, and then when there's 2 lines above the center, because that's radius of 2. Okay, that's basically what I'm trying to say. So again, we will basically do this little math here. So we will take I, and we'll say if I is less than, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do less than for now, is less than or equal to x yeah, okay, let's do that. See what happens. Perfect. Where's the center? Our center should be here. Nope, we went a little bit too far. So then this is the case. If I is, let's try greater than. Okay, so that is 1 off. So then greater than or equal to. There we go. Okay, so now that's basically touching it based on here. So then, if we say if I is greater than or equal to x, that takes care of the bottom range. Okay. However, we want to have the radius. So that we can just do plus r. And that should make it only the bottom line to be drawn of SS. There we go. Cool. Okay, so we got one dimension taken care of. And that is the bottom dimension. The next we want to do is we want to do another one. So maybe like the top one. Okay? So we can say, or yeah, let's try the or. And so for the top, we're going to say I is less than x minus r because we're going up. And there we go. Now we got the top. However, we're off by 1, I think, technically. That might be due to the center not being exact away. However, if we want it to be 2, we could do this. And now, oh, we went too far there. Never mind. So We could say, well, we could do -1, but I think it's actually correct to leave it as it is. Yeah, see, we were at 2 here. Because radius is 2. 1, 2, so yeah. Okay, we'll do the -1 there. That may or may not be the right thing to do mathematically to make this nice. Once we test it with other things, we can remove that. So anyways, that takes care of 2 dimensions. So now let's do one of the horizontal ones. So a NOR statement here. So for the horizontal one, now we're dealing with Y. So that has to do with J. So when do we touch this with J? Well, let's go and check this side. Okay, well, if we were to put J is greater than Y, that would simply put basically the line up to the X basically, including the X as well. However, if we say J plus the radius, that should add 2 to it, but it might just add 1 since we were overlapping. Yeah, so we can fix that by doing again a +1. I'm not liking these +1s, that don't feel right. But there you go. There we got that side. And finally, one last OR statement for the left side of the screen. So in that case, it's less than. So we can say J is less than R, or sorry, less than Y. But again, if we just do that, that would be touching up to touching the S. Or in this case, +1. So, ooh, we haven't even dealt with the radius. Something is off with the math here, actually. We'll have to figure that out because I don't like this -1 thing. We might have screwed up something slightly. But anyways, at least for now, within the screwed up code, it works. But like I said, I think oh, I see why. I see why. Because the way that I had my math, and I guess both are technically correct. In my math, when I've done this in the past, I suppose, and I was thinking, I actually count the center as one of the points. So when I say radius of 2, I mean that. In this version that I did here, I'm not counting the center as part of what I'm counting as the radius. So technically this is like 2.5 points away, I suppose. So do you see what I'm saying? So like the way I did this, I'm saying, oh yeah, this is radius of 2, but I'm not including the center actually. If I was to include the center, that would be technically radius of 3, right? So that's why I'm doing the weird pluses and minuses. But if we don't want that, because now I have come to realize that if we were actually comment out the X here and see it without the X, it actually doesn't feel like it should be. It looks more like a radius of 3 than radius of 2, right? See that? But if we just go ahead and chop one of the sides, then there's no easy way of putting a center to that. So that's why we have all these weird minuses and pluses. But if we get rid of them, like I said, you could have left it like that. That's one solution. The other solution is like without counting the center, which would get fixed by essentially just removing these pluses and minuses. And you can see now that this is really a 4x4, as it should be, because radius of 2, right? So it's not exactly centered to the original center that we had, but that's okay because it's kind of impossible with a radius of 2. With a radius of 3, this might actually look much better and not have these issues. But like I said, both are perfectly valid solutions. There you go. This is kind of getting off the screen, so let's maybe let's bring it a little bit higher so you can see it better. Oh, I went too high. Okay, and then I still haven't got using to which dimension is which, but there we go. So we can see here that this is now radius of 3 on each direction technically, but it's still counting the center. So this is the center. Actually, again, the center is between 2 things. Yeah. So which one do you like more? Do you like more this method, or do you like more the one with the plus and minuses? I actually kind of like the plus and minuses. Let me go back and undo. Because especially when I draw a little marker to signify where the exact center is, it just looks more right, you know? So yeah, but yeah, see, that didn't take too long. That took us like 25 minutes. We're done with the assignment, right? I mean, for the most part, you just got to throw in the players and the damage detection and whatnot, so it's not too bad. But then again, I have done this before. But hey, I hadn't actually coded this sort of storm scenario for about a year, at least a year. So yeah, this was really almost like redoing it actually, because I didn't quite remember a lot of the math. But it's good because then you actually get to see the problem solving. See, we went through a lot of different phases to get here. As many of you said, when I ran into the crosses, you know, where I ran into this weird cross system here. Where's the crosses? Oh, I think they're too far back in the code. But yeah, oh no, because yeah, when I ran into these crosses, you guys said you ran into the same situation. Yeah, that's expected, you know, as you figure troubleshoot, you know. Like I said, the first time I ever did the assignment, I had this issue with the cross. Like my storm was working, but it was working as a cross. And then I quickly fixed that, but it was kind of funny. We don't need this stuff anymore. So now we have an explosions and storms. If we throw this in here back and we rerun this code, we should get like explosions and storms. So that's kind of cool. Okay, now we got storm coming in, but we also got explosions overriding the storm. So yeah, that's cool. And obviously now, if you wanted to make it grow smaller each time, you would call the same function, my draw storm, but you would make the radius smaller. So you RNG pick this guy, so you always call it on the same guys, but you start out with maybe like a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you would see it become smaller. So yes, good idea to print quadri, yeah. I was mentioning those condensations and I got mine was separate if clause first direction. Yeah, no, that's okay if you make it a separate if clause. As long as it works, that's fine. The way that I did it with the or statement is just because once you practice a lot of Boolean logic, you start to try and compress things. So I even thought it would take longer because I put all this space down here because I was like, this was gonna take a bit of Boolean logic, but no. But that's fine. Hey, as long as it works. With coding, the beauty of coding is if it works, it works. You know, you want it to look good, but if you don't, or if you can't, at least if it works, you're good. So okay, that concludes our array discussion per se. Finally, and hopefully, in addition to the assignment and me showing you this in the future, you have a more comfortable familiarity with arrays. That counted from 0 to 1 instead of just saying, right? That's okay. That's not actually bad. Let me tell you that now that you have seen a little bit of the object-oriented programming approach, I mean, this is in a way object-oriented because as you can see, this whole thing is a struct, and I have my grid, and that's great because I don't need to pass in the grid as a parameter to these functions and all that. But even within that, there's just so many better things to do. Like for example, instead of making an array of characters, you can make an array of entities, and these entities can hold multiple things in the same spot in the array. And that solves a lot of problems, like basically, imagine you have a player in there, but the storm is also there. And you don't want to overwrite the player, right? Because maybe the player doesn't die instantly to the storm, he just takes damage. So you want them to both be inside. And so by using an array of a struct, and the struct is basically an entity location where you can have multiple entities, and you can have all these things living on top of each other without causing problems. We also solved the other issue that I had in the assignment that I wrote you guys about, which is if two players spawn in the same spot, they kill each other basically, or they override each other. If you do with a struct, you can keep as many players as you want in the same spot. So yeah, that's 202 tier of the assignment. And then in 302, when you do the CSGO thing, which I made last semester, I really tried to expand on that. That was such a fun assignment. I'm gonna reuse it again in next 302 I teach. So, anyways, oh hey, yeah. So there you are. There he is. One of the veterans of doing the CSGO assignment. So yes, it all started when I did this assignment in 135. So okay. Let's talk about StringStreams now, since that's somewhat useful to know, and not that hard. But if you don't know it, it's just like a foreign language, and you're like, what is this thing? And so it's a good idea to cover this because it's actually kind of useful. when you use it right. All right, so what was the other one? What was this thing that we... Oh, this was the rectangle and width thing. So, okay. Oh, so I shared with some faculty the idea of a 1,000 line if statement, and they told me that's not the biggest they've seen. Lee Mish saw one that was 8,000 lines long. That's hardcore right there. Imagine an if statement that is 8,000 lines long in a CS like 135 level class. I hope they have a copy, you know. That's the real thing. I want to see it. Apparently the assignment that they were working on was a Roman numeral assignment. So what I'm thinking is maybe they just wrote every possible Roman numeral as an if statement instead of doing some sort of formula for like converting it, you know, from like the, you know, like if you had a slash or something. I hope it was copy paste, but what if they like went hardcore and just coded it by hand? That's quite a lot of writing. So I stand corrected. 1,000 lines is quite insignificant compared to 8,000 lines. So, yes, that's kind of cool. They could be like, hey, I had to run the 8,000 line assignment for CS 135. So, yes. And obviously, I think that would have solved with a for loop or something. But it worked. If it works, it works, you know. It's not going to be the most efficient thing. But, yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about StringStreams. And I'm going to post a link to an example from... I have a couple, actually. So I'll post them all, and I'll obviously include them in the video, too. There's this one, and then there is the Geeks for Geeks one, which is this one. So, but see, that's unrelated to her. I mean, she's just giving the assignment. That's just the students, like, I don't know what they were thinking. I just don't know. I hope they were trolling, but maybe what if they were honestly doing it? Like, this is the way they, you know, they refuse to use like a for loop or something, or better logic. So I don't know. But okay, so normally when you read in input from the user, so like if I have a program with a string and I do something like cin, or actually getLine. Yeah, getLine is better for this. GetLine cin str, and then my delimiter. This is an example of default parameters I was talking about last time. You know, where if I don't put this in, that's it. That's the end of it. But if I do put it in, I can. And can I see the source code for this, or I have to run the debugger? Actually, in this case, it's actually function overloading versus default parameters, I suspect. But anyways, just pretend it was default parameters. But hey, I was talking about function overloading in a little bit, so you'll see what I mean. But let's say we are actually reading in into a specific delimiter, which is the asterisk, okay? So, yes. Do you want to go? Dog is here, and I don't know, she's like undecided if she wants to jump out. So, okay. So, yeah, let's just do that. And maybe we do this into a couple. Like, 2. Yeah, let's make good code. Like, you can do this. You don't have to do entirely different lines. Okay. And then after we do that, let's go ahead and actually just print them out. Also, is this in the same folder, or did I make a new folder? I did make a new folder. So let me, before I forget, go into the right folder, G++ StringStreams. Okay. Cout str and line. Cout str2 and line. At what point would I switch to a loop? Probably if I did like 4, I would switch to a loop and an array. But I'm not doing 4. Okay. So if I run this program, I can enter like a bunch of input that is basically words. So like, hello, my name is Sam. And then I can put an asterisk to separate that input. And then I can put more input after that. Nice to meet you. Press enter. Oh, shoot. Okay, that's not going to work. Why is it not going to work? Because... why wouldn't that work? Let's try that again, actually. Okay, this time it worked. But what did it read? It read a plus sign, then a bunch of input. That's weird. Okay, so that means if I try this again, I do that. Test 1, test 2, test 3, asterisk, test 4, or test 4, like that. It reads it. Oh, it's reading in between. Interesting. Let me go ahead and put a little label here so I can see it. But I think we'll stick to using this as an input file because I don't know. I usually you want to use this getLine stuff with Linux redirection, to be honest with you. Although it should work here. Maybe I should just switch back to stop trying to be fancy and just switch over to just using a line feed to avoid weird things from happening. So like, hello, my name is Sam. Nice to meet you. And then it's reading into that. Oh, damn it. I forgot to put a 2 there. So I was overriding my input. That's why everything was breaking. Dang it. Okay, now it should be fun. So like, this is, so like, this is string 1. This is string 2. That's strange. It's reading everything, but what's happening to my string 1? And I am printing them out. Yeah, I guess we're doing a file. So nano test. Oh, I didn't compile. Oh. No, I didn't compile. What do you mean? I have a G+. Oh, no, I didn't. This is string 1. This is string 2. Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you. Good call. Good call there. I was getting a little bit worried about that. So anyways, getLine, we like to use getLine because it's useful for reading in more than one word at a time. Because cin, all your cin functions read in everything until they see a space or a line feed. And sometimes you want to read multiple words into one string. Such as like enter your name. And your name includes multiple words, right? So when you wanted to stop it when they read enter, or if you put a special delimiter, you wanted to stop when it sees a special character. So anyways, the point is that suppose that you wanted to run a program that read somebody's name in, but then split the name into different parts of the name. So maybe they enter first and last name, and then you want to split it into first and last name. Yes, so let's go ahead and kind of mimic that. So we're going to say, cout, enter your first, enter your full name, like that. And then maybe we can, well, we're going to do this before the get line. So str, which let's rename it now to a better variable. We'll call that name, or we'll call that full name. And then for the second one, we're going to ask them to enter a list of hobbies. Yeah. Enter list of hobbies separated by commas. Actually, just separated by spaces. That'll be actually enough. You guys hear my dog smelling the microphone? That makes some weird noises to the microphone. Okay, so enter list of hobbies separated by commas. So down, we'll just call it CR. Now we'll call it hobbies. And then just to test it, we'll print it out, but we're gonna do more to it later, okay? I think that's change C to CPP. What do you mean? C to CPP? You mean like C program to C++? But I'm not sure what your comment was related to. You mean like the getLine function? Oh, at Python. Does the second getLine have to specify the str2? Well, yeah. I guess I didn't notice when you said that before. That maybe you did, but yeah, you wanted to save into different spots. But yeah, it's fixed now. Maybe there's a delay in the stream. Anyways, I probably have a missing semicolon, so here we go. Enter your full name. Jason Bourne. List of hobbies. Spying, hacking. What else does he do? Assassinations, I guess. It's kind of scary. Assassinations. Political assassinations. Okay, cool. That worked. Great. All right. So, suppose that you want a program that instead of responding, you know, your name is this, you want to say your first name is Jason and your last name is Bourne. Okay? So, what we need to do is find a way to tokenize my input. And tokenizing is a very, 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 very common thing to do in programming. It's very useful. And so normally, when you tokenize, you can use something like cin, and then you can just tokenize based on spaces. You can use the delimiters and something like getLine to tokenize by specific characters. But sometimes you have to read into a string multiple tokens, such as the case is in both of these. And by that I'm saying that technically Jason and Bourne are separate tokens because we want it to be stored into different variables. And then all of these hobbies, say we want to throw into a vector. Yeah, let's do it into a vector, okay? But the question now becomes, because it's already stored in the string, into our full names and hobby strings, how do we separate in that string the text? One way to do it, I suppose the naive way to do it, but naive, but again, works, is you could use a little for loop that goes from I equals to, can we do this with a character? Oh, I wonder if we could do this with a range for loop with a character. So like car C colon full name. Does this work? Let's see if this works. I was going to do a normal for loop, but I'm curious about that. Oh, yes, of course. Okay, because I don't want to have to type in my name every single time. Not my name, but Jason Bourne name. We're just going to hard code the values for now. So we're going to put in Jason Bourne. And then we're going to put in here hobbies are equal to... and when we finish, we can do it one more time without hard coding it. But I just don't want to have to manually type this in. Spying, what were the three things? Hacking, assassination, memes. Oh, well, I got memed. Yes, okay, so we still got the same input, but this time I'm actually quite surprised and happy that this works too with a range for loop. So this is kind of cool. So I'll show you how to do it again, the naive way using a range for loop, which I actually had never tried doing it this way. But one way that you could try and separate these two strings is you could create sort of you could create something like, okay, let's say you want to get the first name out of this. You could do something like create a string called first name. Wait, why do I? Oh, Yeah, okay. So call it like string f name and string last name. And then in your little for loop here, instead of couting, you could say something like f name plus equals, and I guess initialize them. So I guess in that case here, let's just do first name for now. F name equals to empty string, and then f string L name equals to another empty string. And so now we're gonna say, and we can add a little flag saying if, I will call this boolean finished first name, or just finish for now, and set this to false. You'll see what this does in a second. So now we can say if not finished, take basically the ongoing first name and append the current character to it. Will this work because it's a character? It should, but we'll find out. And then we need to add a check inside of that check. Or actually we can do it above it. We can say if current character is equal to a space, that means we finish reading the first name because there's a space. That's assuming that the person doesn't have spaces in their names. Like, I suppose if you have like a, you know, those names like McCormick or the MC names, they sometimes have space in the names, then that would break our system. But we're just kind of assuming. If that happens, then we know we finished reading the first name. Otherwise, we will concatenate to the ongoing name. 22, where's the semicolon here? Okay. Once we're done, we, in addition to couting the full name and the hobbies, we are going to cout just the first name. It failed epically. First name, Jason Bourne. Why did we fail? Oh, because I didn't actually set it to false. I just called it. So, or sorry, to true, I mean. There we go. Okay, now it worked. So this is kind of the overkill way of doing this. So basically what I'm doing is I started out with a string that has multiple words, and I'm trying to extract the first word out of that. And when I extract something, I need a delimiter, which is like, how do I know when to stop extracting text? In this case, I'm thinking of my delimiter as being a space. And so, because I know that's a space, then I'm basically going to just go in a loop where I take each character one at a time, and then I look at the character and I see, is this a space? No, it's not. Okay, then add it to my ongoing output, part of the first name. And I keep doing that until I hit a space, at which point I'm like, I guess I'm done, because the space means that the first name finished. At that point, I can go ahead and stop actually reading. So I set the flag to true, which means that it will not add it into that. What do I want to do in that case? Well, I must be reading in the second word. So I could put that on else, saying else, read it into the last name this time. And then I can print out the last name like that. As you can see. Okay? So this works fine, but I do have one problem potentially, and that is that I actually read the space into the second one. It's kind of hard to actually catch that. But that's actually why these things lined up, because there's a space I added. So I do need to add one more thing into this thing so it actually fully works. And I suppose that would be to skip spaces. And I can do that by using my dreaded continue statement. I could change the logic to not use it, but that's good enough. Again, this is more of like what you could have done versus what you should do, which I'll show you. Now that space is actually gone, as you can see. So that way we're actually not adding the space to any output. What if the person has a bunch of extra middle names included? Would there be only way to capture the first and last? Okay, so yeah, that's potentially an issue. So what you could do is we could transform this system, and I guess that could be the next step, into using a vector. And using a vector, we can just reading everything into the vector, every single name at a time, and then just take the last name and store that. So I guess we'll do that next. Okay, so let's declare a vector of strings called names, I guess. And then what we want to do now is just store all of the names into the vector. So we're going to modify this to store into each one. So first of all, let's take out the concept of finished and instead just skip when we do continue, but let's actually add a little counter. Yeah, this will do, yeah. So we'll do a little counter, which is tell us the number of names there are, and we're gonna start at 0. And then every time that we hit a space, we know that we basically finished reading a name. Otherwise, and then we can actually get rid of the continue, the threaded continue. We're going to append it to the ongoing spot. Oof, that's nasty. Actually, now that I think about it, okay. Oh well. Names I plus equals C, and I suppose in addition to the counter, we have to kind of push back. Names dot push back. I think it's push back. Just an empty string. And then we need to push one back in the beginning as well. This should work. I'm not 100% sure. Damn, we got some errors. Okay, so we'll fix this in a second, but I'm gonna take a quick break and go to the restroom. So we'll be right back. I'll put the neutral screen, but I'll be back in a few. Well, not a few minutes. Probably like in a minute or so. So I'll be back soon. Stay here, guys. All right, guys, I'm back. Give me a sec to put it up. Cool. All right. Apologies for that. Yo, what were you guys said? You know what they say? Yeah, you know what they say when you gotta go. So, anyways, that was not too long. Okay, so let's actually go back to what we're trying to figure out here. Oh, so we got a couple of errors. Vector was not declaring the scope. Oh, yeah, so I was wondering why nothing was actually auto-completing. That will probably fix like just about everything. I was not declaring the scope. Oh, that's right, because we got to use counter. Yay, it compiles. So, okay, now we just got to actually, instead of doing first and last name, we're going to kind of list the names out. So we're going to say list of names. And then we can print out the vector, basically. So another for-range loop. You can say string s and names cout s. Okay. I keep forgetting semicolons. I've been coding too much Python lately. And then when I'm coding Python, I will like randomly add semicolons at the end of lines there. But those are actually okay. I can get away with. So, okay. Yay, it works. So now what is it, Jason the Destroyer or something? What was the thing? Let me scroll up. Jason the Destroyer of Worlds. Is this from Ghostbusters? I hope I can copy it. If not, I'll just type it. The Destroyer of Worlds. Okay, so as you can see, Jason the Destroyer of Worlds works. So now, if we just need to extract the oh yeah, my dog was with you guys when I was in the bathroom. Like she was chilling here in the chair. Actually, I should have just left the stream on her, like those watch animals sleep streams. Oh yeah, but anyways, so now that we got it in the vector, and we know that, well, we assume that the last name is the last thing in the list, we can easily get that out. We can get the first thing out of there by saying cout names 0, which should be assuming that they actually read something in. Otherwise, we can do some error checking. But I mean, okay, no, let's be good coders. Yes. We can say name size is greater than 0. Okay, there we go. Show good manners, right? Okay, so I guess let me go ahead and back in my first name tag. So that will get the first name. And now we just gotta get the last name. So the last name is gonna be the last thing in the vector. How do we know what the last thing in the vector is? I think there's like a function that we can get to get the last item of the vector, but I can't remember. It's called like last or something. In vector. Quick Google search will remind us what it is. Last time in vector in C++. I mean, I could like do the loop and then just like save my okay. If I really have no idea, then what I could do is like I could do something like this: string last, and then I could do something like last gets s, and after this loop, then last will have the name. So like that's one way that I could do it, but I think there's a better way of doing it. So I could do something like this, and that would actually work. See, that works. But I think there's a way. So let me see. Back. That's what it is. Yes. So that's what it is. So this is one way of doing it with the weird. So what I'm doing is, this is something that comes in use when you start thinking about linked lists and stuff like that. If you want to keep track of the last item that you work with, you can make a temporary variable outside of the scope of the loop, and then just copy it over every time you run through. So yeah, vector back will do it. Yeah, and then copy each time you go through the sort of a backup of it. And so when you get out of the loop, last will have the last thing that you work with. And so I guess last like that makes more sense. That's one way to do it. But yes, as somebody else said, and as I also found here, and I can post a link on Twitch, is called vector back. It's a more elegant way. Taking advantage, I mean, let's put it this way. If you're using the vector library, you might as well use it to its full potential, right? So it seems, it would appear to a person who knows what they're doing, if they see that you're using vectors, but then they see you using the method I used here instead of using back on code, they're gonna wonder if you're like a rookie or you just don't know C++ that well, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but they're gonna know that something's up because they're like, huh, he's using a vector, okay, that's a plus, but then he's not using the vector's functions like back. He's instead doing some weird for loops and things like that, when back is probably more efficient. So that would make them question your ability to code. And like I said, in my case, I didn't actually remember it by memory back, but I knew that it was something like that. So a quick Google search refreshed my mind. And now for the next month or so, I'll probably remember that. And then it's probably eventually going to get kicked out of my brain. But at least I'll know that it exists, so I can quickly Google it again. That's pretty much enough. As long as you know this exists, you can check it later on. But yeah, that takes care of this. So anyways, this is all great and good. This tokenizing with the for loop, but you know, there's a better way of doing this. Vector end, is that a thing? Is it on this link? I don't know. Let's try seeing if names is able to autocomplete. What does end do? It returns iterator that points one past the last element of the vector. You could use this if you're looping, because there's a way to loop backwards in a vector, and end will get you the iterator, and then you can just work your way backwards that way. That's more what end does, but it doesn't actually get you exactly. Back is probably a better choice for us, especially if you don't know what iterators really are. Even in 302, I was trying to show that other thing. I can't even remember, but it's like it's not that. It's not. I wish it was covered more, but at least we got to cover vectors in the first place. I know a lot of people in 202 that didn't know vectors, so yeah. Anyways, okay. So far we are using vectors and all, but like I said, there's a better way of doing all of this. So this whole time we've been doing this just to get to the better way of doing it, and it's good to know how to do this because again, this just shows that you kind of know your way around coding. But if you go to the Geeks for Geeks link that I think I shared, there is this library. I'm trying to look for the library name right now, called StringStreams, I believe. Yes, it's called. What is this? I don't actually. Yeah, let's test it. StringStreams. I don't know. We'll see if we need to include the library because I feel like you don't need to. Nope, it did say that you need. So StringStream. There we go. Yeah, it's okay. So I guess it's okay. We can use this library, so we don't need it because I mean, on the Geeks for Geeks, it says that we need to put this in there. Well, I can't copy paste, but it says to include this library. Include bits, but I've never actually included this library when using StringStreams. So that's why I was like, huh, I don't recall that being a thing. But yeah, that's the library it says to include. But since it works and it has to work in the past for me without it, we're kind of gonna not include it. Because I mean, hey. So, okay, so let me comment out. I think you got censored. I don't know what you said because it just shows me asterisk, but somebody got censored. Anyways, let's comment out all this crap that we had. So basically all the way to the beginning here. So actually we can just do return 0. Can we use that library? Yes, you can use StringStreams in the assignment if you want. Okay, so that kind of gets most of it. Oh, we never actually tested it with the old method, but it would work. You guys can trust me on that. If like, I guess I'll run it one time because they're gonna be like, no, he didn't show it because there was shitty stuff going on, blah blah blah. So here we can do it by manually entering things instead of hard coding it as we had it one time before we switch over to StringStreams. I just typed library. Oh, so does it censor the word lib maybe? L-I-B? Because I could see that could be like an offensive term, like mad lib or something. I don't know. Try typing lib and see if it censors you. Because it just showed me 3 little asterisks. Anyways, so here, what was it? Jason, the destroyer of worlds born. Hobbies. Oh, and by the way, we didn't do anything with hobbies, but we could do the same thing that we did with Jason Bourne with the hobbies as well and throw them in the vector. Live. Yeah, so I don't know. See, it worked this time, so I don't know. You just got censored for some reason. Anyways. I don't know. How A, B, C, blah, 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 blah. But anyways, you can see that Oh, yeah, I see last name twice because I had it one way with the back method and one way with the last method. But yeah, see, this works the same way if we're just typing into using getLine. But for now, like I said, I'll just keep it hard coded so we can test quickly. So okay, so I'm gonna put a return 0 here, and that should, for all intents and purposes, and put this end line closer here so it looks better. We'll have our program not really have any real input, so that's good. Okay, perfect. All right, so now we can show you the other way of doing this. So what are StringStreams? Okay, StringStreams is kind of like creating a fake CN. So when you think about CN, the way CN works is it has a little buffer, and what a buffer is a temporary. You can think of it as a little array in memory that holds things while you work on them. So like, when I type something in my terminal, click, clack, clack, it gets sent to the operating system, who then holds it on a safe location until the program that's processing it is ready to take it, right? Because it's like a multi-step process, and so you can never like it's in quarantine or whatever. It's just being held there, and that buffer. Eventually, when it feeds to your program, that buffer is not that nice. It's like, yo, here's the stuff I got in the order that like the user gave it to me. You get it once, you take it or you lose it, kind of thing. So like, you read that input, and then it's gone forever. You can't reread it in. Once the buffer gives it to you, it's gone. So like Jason Bourne, when I read in Jason Bourne to some variables and I take it from the buffer, I can't read it in again. So sometimes, you can just kind of wait and slowly take things from the buffer one at a time. But the buffer has a certain size. So sometimes, you may want to take a different approach where you're like, yeah, just give me everything you got, buffer, and I'll keep it in the program somewhere safe until I'm ready to work with it. So the buffer can take more data, right? So that's when you're dealing with bigger amounts of data, it's a better sort of work technique. And you can see how in the real world how that same thing applies, right? Imagine that the mailman could only give you 1 letter at a time, and you have to take it in your hand every time. If you don't take it, he will not deliver it to you. And then maybe after a couple of days, he throws it away. What do? You create a buffer called a mailbox where they can just throw all the mail every day, and then whenever you are feeling comfortable, you can go to the mail and pick up all that mail. There's still only 1 copy of the mail. If you lose that copy, it's gone forever. And technically, there can be something as a buffer overflow, because if you don't pick up your mail after like a month or something, that mailbox is going to get so crowded that they're going to start to take mail away to be able to fit the new mail in. You can imagine it like exploding and falling out or something. So we use buffers all over the world all the time. We just don't maybe call them buffers. But a mailbox is a good example of that. So, of course, when people created computers and operating systems, they said, hey, buffers are a good idea to have. So what we need to implement is sort of the idea of the mailbox, which is take all our input and then process it. And that's kind of what we did with the string when we said string name. We took all the name and then we went ahead and separated it into individual pieces. However, like I said, most of the, well, not like I said, but most, maybe now I'll say it, most of the things that you want to work on in programs like at these levels have been done before, and they have been perfected by people with libraries, things like that. StringStream is an example of that. That StringStream creates another sort of buffer, a pseudo buffer that you can then sort of read in from, just like you would from cin. And yeah, so let's see it. So because I think again, when you see this, it'll make more sense. So the first part is we got ourselves some input that is potentially read into a string, as we did before. So we took all the stuff in the buffer and just kind of fed it in there using getLine. Okay? So now we need to tokenize this. We could use this nasty method with the for loops, but we're going to take advantage of a string stream. How do you create a string stream? Well, you saw me create one there earlier when I was testing to see if it worked. You do string stream like that, and then you put in the name of the string string, which we'll call it a S-stream, just because it sounds cool. It's abbreviation of string string. And then it does take something. It requires a constructor, actually. If you think back to constructors that I showed last time, what are constructors? Constructors allow you to initialize variables. In this case, StringStream is a class, and that class contains a lot of functions and variables in it. And what it needs to start is the information that you want to put into it. You can't just create a blank string string. You have to already feed it in the information you want. So in this case, we're going to feed it in the string that we're gonna work with. So that's going to be the full name string. That's the one we read in from the user that has the JSON destroyer of worlds. Okay, we compile this and it'll just compile, but of course nothing will happen, assuming it actually compiles. What is this? String stream full name. Maybe I don't think this matters, but I can try it. That's just this. Maybe if I include the library interface, I'm not sure. I don't think VS Code existed when she was teaching the class. Actually, I don't know. What did she use? Missing terminating character. I think these errors are only happening because we're reading it from a string. That is weird. I don't know why that's not working. I'm trying to think. Let's look at the examples. Emacs is hardcore. I actually know a little bit of Emacs, but I don't like it because I'm totally used to our shortcuts of like Control-C, Control-V. So I'm not a fan. But I wasn't actually using much of Visual Code until recently. I was just coding in IDE1.com in class. Here I'm coding in Visual Code because I have it here installed and it's easy to use. But sometimes in the class I just open that up. But you can open that Visual Code online too. So that might be a new thing I do. But why is this not working? Here, I'm just gonna Google the error. String missing terminating character. It says I have a quote in the string, but I don't. It says because I have a quotation marks in my string that it's causing problems. But I do not have quotation marks in my string. And I don't even have any special characters in my string. Let's try it with the hobbies one and see if we get the same warning. And then if I remove this include, which I don't think, like I said, you need to have that include in there at all. Then let's Google this one. Let's see what this gives us. StringStream has initializer but incomplete type. Oh, now I know which one. Yeah. That, okay, that makes sense. The one that we do have to include, and I do remember this one actually being a thing, is called, oh, well, that was another error that we had in there. I just noticed we did not have the closing curly bracket, not curly bracket, but less than sign when I was doing the other one. Maybe that would have fixed it. Yeah, I would have fixed that. I forgot to put that closing there. That's why I had the incomplete type. I actually didn't look at that. I don't know why the line went all the way down there and said line 19, but that's why we had the, oh no, here it said line 3, so I just didn't read the line error. But yeah, that was the reason why we were getting that. So this would have worked. We just forgot that. However, the other one, which this one seems familiar, is include SSTream. Now that seems very familiar. I have included that before, and I probably did have to include that for StringStreams. That one will work as well. So there we go. Okay. So anyways, Stack Overflow to the rescue. So yay. Okay. Now let me go ahead and pop open this stuff. Okay, cool. So what this does is it creates that StringStream and it puts well, we're gonna do the name one. We could do the hobby one now, actually. Yeah, well, no, let's do the hobby one. Yeah, since we did the full name at the bottom, then we'll have both things at the end of the day. So yeah, okay, cool. So we got all the hobbies in there. As you can see, it's just one big thing. But here's the cool thing about it. Now that I've created this SSTream, I can actually read in each hobby individually. Kind of like if I was doing CN. So if I make another vector of hobbies, hobby list, I can do the following. I mean, technically could have done this in the first place, but like I said, it's a much faster process to take it into your program and then process it manually. I can go ahead and do SSTream, which is the name of the variable. Use my insertion and extraction operators, except in this case, I'm using the extraction one. And then put in the name of the how can I do this? I might need a temporary variable here. Yeah. So string temp. And then okay, we'll do one. We'll do just one, and then I'll show you. You can use this with a little while loop. But read it into temp, and then you can go ahead and do hobby list pushback. Okay, and that will actually, nothing is happening right now, but if we go ahead and see out the vector list for hobbies. Oh wait, no, just do H here. Come on, hobbies. It really doesn't help that I'm coding like sideways. Okay. Oof, that did not go the way I expected. That actually split it into individual characters. I mean, it split it, but it just didn't split it how I thought it would. But oh, I see why. This should have been hobby list here. Okay, so that worked for the first one. Perfect. Okay, so we got spying in here. All right. So what we did is we make a temporary variable. But here's the thing about StringStreams. You can read them in just like if you're doing cin. See that? And so even though this is a string that you have, that you already read in, you can process it with your cin functions later on. Or even you can even call getLine on it, I suppose. Instead of putting cin, you can put in the ss string probably. I think that would be okay. And then we're putting into a vector, and then we're printing it out. But now this is only going for one of them. If you want to read all of them, you can put this in a little while loop. Like that. And oh, I forgot to put in the pushback inside the while loop. There we go. There you go. Now we reset all of them in. So basically we got while SSStream temp. And by the way, I saw this on Discord. This is how I like to do my reading and while loops. No EOF stuff. EOF for me just is a headache. If I just put in the reading part inside the while loop, everything always runs reliable for me. So I don't trust EOF. Yeah, and frankly, it works most of the time, EOF. But then sometimes it does weird things, and that's why I don't recommend it. That's why I don't even mention it in class too much, other than to talk crap about it. So yeah, anyways, we read in here, and then we push it into the string stream. So EOF is, you can do something like, can you do that with a string stream even? Like, it's gonna be nasty. Here, let's replace this loop with a backup loop. So let me comment this one out. EOF is end of file. So you do something like StringStream dot end of file. And then in theory, this should do the same thing. If you don't forget your semicolons. In practice, it broke. Probably because I have to do maybe that. There we go. So you can see now, this does the same thing as the bottom one. However, I don't like this method. I just don't trust this. I like more my style, which is this. However, if you try to do both, I don't think the second one's gonna read anything because I think it depletes the string stream. Yeah, basically. So if I want to reset my string stream, I gotta create another one. Maybe there's a way to reset actually, but I'll just make another one. Call it S2 string. That's the other thing. String streams mimic the same functionality as a buffer in the sense that like it only gives you a chance to get it once and then it's gone forever. But of course you can just make another one out of it. Whereas with the buffer, that's not up to you, that's the operating system. So yeah, both of these do the same thing. One of them is using a file, the other one is using StringStreams. And the file works for files and cin and file streams and all of that. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of using it. I've seen too many issues with it. So anyways, there's both methods. So as you can see, look at this. Look at this much code versus this much code. This is far more of an elegant solution using StringStreams. So really that's kind of what I wanted to show you. This versus that. But also just practice parsing. Parsing is a super important concept that I also said that at some point. But the biggest thing with parsing that I see is a lot of people have a hard time. Like last time I gave 202, I gave this unigram and bigram assignment where they had to take a book and basically extract all words from the book, which you just did it here with the names, and then they had to add them to a dictionary, right? Kind of like I think it was like a dictionary, or well, no, it was unigram. Well, unigram was a dictionary, and then bigram was like a two-word dictionary, if you could think of it like all phrases possible. And they all struggled so hard with it, like it was a hard project, but literally we just did it here in like 10 minutes. So yeah. They should be ashamed of that. You can ask Maya. He had to do that assignment, and I don't think he did good in it. At least the first time around. But then I gave him a second chance, using dynamic stuff. So they got to redeem themselves. At least some of them did. Then his water heater exploded or something, or at least that's what he claims is the excuse. You know. You know what they say. They always put in an excuse like, "Oh, my water heater exploded, so that's why I couldn't do the assignment." So yes, but anyways. That's StringStreams is very powerful and useful for that. Oh yes, it was a wallet. That's what it was. The water heater was a test time, the midterm or something. So yes. Okay, so we got 20 minutes left. So does anybody have questions on StringStreams before we switch over for me showing you maybe function overloading? I don't think we will get to pointers. So anything. I'll create a new file while you guys debate on whether you ask questions or not. Function overloading. Fun cover. So just to refresh, declare the string will hold those strings in the buffer to output ones. Yes. And when you declare it, it's basically the type name, which is a string stream. The identifier, this can be whatever you want. I just call it SS stream, but you could call it foo or potato or JSON born. It's, I don't know, whatever, any variable name. And then in parentheses, you passing in a constructor parameter, which is the string that has the stuff that you want the string stream to hold onto. And so you can see that I made it twice. I made it once here and I made it once here because once you use it, it's depleted. So yes, hopefully that answers the question. Not related to stream, but what times is our final? It's the same as the midterm. It's during class time, so 9 to 11. That's kind of my official UNLV thing that I have to follow. That's why we have the test from 9 to 11. So yeah. Excuse me. All right. So maybe tomorrow, after we review, if we have spare time, we'll do some pointer stuff. If not, like I said, that's a 202 thing anyways. Most of these things are 202, except for the string streams. I think that actually deserves it to be in the 135 tier class, especially now that you know what a constructor is and you know classes and everything. You basically know about 20 to 30% of the 202 material at this point. The big thing that you don't know is the pointers and recursion. But maybe we'll cover some pointer stuff tomorrow. I mean, I'll show you guys quicksort, so you know even 302 stuff. Yeah. So, suppose in this case, because I didn't see any additional questions. Suppose that we have two functions here, and I had kind of talked about function overloading in the past, but now I kind of want to just revisit that topic and expand upon it. We could have a function called foo that is a void function, and we can call our function foo here. We call it twice even, and that should print out foo twice. Well, foo actually it will print out foo one, but that's what I mean with foo twice. Let's change this to function overloading. Okay, so I could also have a function called foo that has a parameter called x. And my function could actually see out foo and then the x value. I would call that by saying foo 55, and that should actually print out foo 55, as it does. Okay, cool. Now, why is this not a problem? These have the same names, so it's kind of like declaring the same variable twice. You can't really do that, at least within the same scope. And the answer is it's okay because the signatures are different. This one has one parameter, this one has no parameter. And even though they're both void, then the parameter amount is different. So we're okay there. Okay, So let's go ahead and create another case. Let's do a float G. Will this work? 66.6. Wow, that's, I don't know what this is the first time I came up with. Well, actually, semicolon, but you already kind of saw some potential risks related to this. We have a bit of a problem now, but why? You're asking yourself, we have an int function, we have a float function. This is clearly an int, and this clearly is some sort of decimal value which should go to float. Furthermore, while this gets you an error, if I throw a little f in there, that one I don't know why I got that error. Oh, because I lost my thing here. This is just fine. So this works fine, whereas this one causes errors. Why is that? The f in front, as I mentioned, means that this is a floating point value. And because we're very specific that it's a floating point value, we have a function called foo that takes a float. So it knows that this must be called with this function. Maybe we'll call this capital foo so you can see the difference better. And this one is lowercase foo, and then this is just foo one with a space. That way they all look different. Come on. So this is the first function, this is the second function, and then this is the third function, okay? And so basically, this gives us a situation where the float is fine, but the double is not, because that's what it is. This is a double. This foo right here, 66.4, that's a double. And so the problem is that a double is not the same thing as a float. They both hold decimals, but the double is like a float 2.0. It holds more accuracy to your decimals, right? And so the error you get says call of overload function is ambiguous. So we have an ambiguous call. And it actually tells you the reason why it's ambiguous by giving you the two potential candidates. It says, look, man, you have two functions that take one parameter, okay? So either of those could work, foo int and foo float. If I go ahead and actually delete either one of these, this will work just fine. So if I go ahead and like delete this function, this program will work just fine. It's just going to lose accuracy with the decimals. See, that works fine. Vice versa. If I comment out the top one, that program works fine as well. So the problem lies upon having two functions, which works fine some of the time, you know, such as if I comment out this function call, the code will compile and run. But when I have a function call like this, it doesn't. So it's not necessarily an error in your code as much as it is an error in what you're trying to achieve with what you have right now coded. And again, that's because 66.4 is a double. And because it's a double, it needs to be coerced. If you remember casting and coercion, and tomorrow when we review, you will if you don't. It has to be coerced into a different type. And you could think of it as distance-based. Coercing a double into a float is as far away in conversions as coercing it into an integer. Now, I don't agree that should be the case. I think that there should be some sort of bias towards the float because it may lose accuracy, but it's still a decimal versus like 100% losing all accuracy with an integer. I disagree in the way they decided this, but that's just the way it is. It considers that distance to be the same. And so it's like, I don't know what you want me to do. Do you want me to cast this to an integer? Or do you want me to coerce this to an integer? Or do you want me to coerce it to a float? Because what you're giving me is a double. And so we have a problem. Okay, just to show you that the opposite could happen, I could make this into a double. We'll call this do now. and it works just fine. However, if I put the F here, which means that this is a float, I should have the same error, but I don't, which makes things even worse. That is confusing because double to float, that's technically coercion. Float to double, that's coercion too, but that one is closer to int. And the actual, if you think about it, the reason why is because a double is more accurate than a float. So the compiler has no problem saying, okay, that's fine. You have this float and you want to make it into a double. It's not going to lose accuracy. In fact, it's going to be the same accuracy, but have, potential to have more accurate values later down the line. Whereas with an integer, you would lose accuracy. So in that case, it's like, yeah, that's okay. That we don't even consider a coercion. We definitely say that coercing a float to a double is a much better choice than the integer. So there's no ambiguity there. Whether you pass it a float or a double, it'll take it as a double. The problem is the other way around when you have a double, which you want to go to a float, because you could lose accuracy there because floats are much smaller. This sort of situation actually gets to the extreme that it is, as far as I know, Java will get really angry at you. Java is in like the programming language, not Java the Hutt. Will get really angry at you if you try to do some casting in function calls from doubles to floats. Like, I don't think that's even allowed. Ask a Java programmer. I don't really program in Java. I did at some point when I take the compilers and stuff, and I was doing it good. It's almost the same thing as C++. You could pick it up really quickly. I'm sure I could practice again, but yeah, I believe it got to that extreme that they're like, no, we're not even gonna let you do this coercion stuff from double to float. So the moral of this story is that you essentially want to be very careful with coercion, but more importantly, you have to understand that sort of distance. Haha, he dead. Did the connection die? No, it says I'm still alive. So hopefully I'm not dead. But yeah. So if you insist on having a function that deals with floats, you could solve this by having another function that just strictly deals with doubles. And so now you will not have a problem with either one. Oh, I get it. So anyways, that's okay. But now let me put you a challenge. What happens if I remove the integer function? Will this work or will it not work? And due to the time constraints, I'm just going to tell you very fast instead of waiting. It will not work because you have the same situation here. If I pass it in a 55, it doesn't know what to do with it. There's no function that can handle a 55. There are functions that can handle floats and doubles. In both of those cases, you don't lose accuracy at all. In fact, you now have a chance. Oh, actually, you could lose accuracy potentially because if you have a really, really big integer that is not zeros anywhere in it, it's just a bunch of different numbers, you could potentially lose accuracy. Like if you have 1,526,956,426, that number cannot be kept in a float for sure. A double maybe, but probably not either. So yeah, so you could actually lose accuracy, but still, in this case, it's like I have no idea what you want to do. You want to take this integer and put it as a float or a double? So again, it's ambiguous. So I want you to understand out of this that you can have multiple functions with the same name, but as long as they are not ambiguous, you'd be okay. And that ambiguity doesn't mean that the code will or will not compile. As long as you don't have ambiguous function calls, you could have as many functions with the same parameters as you want, and everything will be good. It's only a problem when you make an ambiguous call, such as this scenario here. 55. Did you mean to make this a double or a float? How do you fix this without adding this function? You could cast it. You could manually cast something here. You could do like static cast. Now this is a literal, so I hope this works. You static cast this to a float. And it works just fine. So you could cast it, and then that way you remove the ambiguity. Because basically you're saying you know, when you're doing these calls like this, it knows that it's floats because there's a float. But here, you're sort of leaving yourself at the mercy of how the compiler wishes to coerce this. If you don't want to be in that situation, handle it yourself by doing your casting. So then you'd be okay. So that's kind of the idea between function overloading is having the same function name but different types of parameters. But this can go into also having multiple parameters. So I could have a void foo that has an int x and an int y. We'll just not let it do nothing. And that works just fine. I could even make these doubles and floats. This one's a double. The first one's a double, and the second one's a float, technically. Interior constant. Blah, blah, blah. Sure. That's basically telling me, don't tell me it's a float when there's no decimals after it. That's what the compiler just literally told me right now. It's like, okay, whatever, sure. If you really want to do, I think if you do a 0 here, then it'll shut up the compiler. Yep. So yeah, just put 0.0 there. If you, the compiler yells at you. Don't be bullied by compilers. So yeah. So this works just fine in the sense that I have multiple parameters, and again, these are all called foos, but this has 2 parameters, so that's pretty. Even though these are not the same type, the compiler's like, I only have one choice, and that is this one single function. Oh, well, that was just a call. I only have one choice, and it's just this single function here. Thank you. Basically, it's like I will have to do as best as I can to coerce these things to fit into that system. And what I was talking about with the decimal was like I actually had this as a 2f, and that actually the compiler yells at you, and it's like that's not, you shouldn't keep that as a float. That's an integer. So I just put a 0.0 so that the compiler doesn't yell at me. So that's what you guys are gonna see. But yeah, the same sort of issue arises now if I try to make another function here called void foo float x int y. This one's going to this one actually won't have a problem, I think, because it did have a problem. Yeah. Well, no. I beg to differ as to why this. Oh, I see. Because we put the. Okay, so if I swip this around, if I have the float here and the double here, then I think this one would have been okay. Yeah, but the reason why the other one's a problem, this one's a problem, is because this is a double and this is a float. The float becoming an integer for these has the same distance, and for these, this is a double becoming a float is the same distance as becoming an integer. So this you could think of this as like a distance of 2 between this call and the nearest potential function. Whereas if we do something like this, 2 floats, in this case, this one's definitely closer because here we have at least one matching parameter and then one coercion. And it works just fine. If we make this a double, then we have at least this one's the same and this one's different, but then these two are different. So it basically checks to see who's the closest. And as long as there's one defined solution, it goes with that. So that's pretty much all there's to it to function overloading. Why would you ever function overload? Like, you should ask yourself that actually. Like, why not just have different function names? Well, you may have different functionality. So one of the ways that you can have varying parameters of the same function is by doing the default parameters. Alternatively, and be careful when using default parameters and function overloading, that gets even nastier, but alternatively, you can just use function overloading to do that. So like getLine You know, when you're doing the get line stuff, there is 5 different functions that are called get line, and they all have different parameters. And that's an example of function overloading. Why? Because I don't want to have to remember 5 different functions as a developer. I just want one, and then I can just vary parameters. I know that I do my stream, my string that I need. So like this is string str, and then optionally my delimiter. But I know that I can add that in if I need to. If not, then I don't add it in. But all I have to remember is get line and the order of the parameters. And even that it can tell me. But just one function name called get line. Whereas if I had to remember 10 different get line functions, one's called get line with delimiter, get line with no delimiter, and all that, that'd be harder to remember, right? So function overloading is meant to make developers' life easier by having a function that can do more than one thing and just making the developer remember one function. And then along with function documentation, as you saw with the autofill there, you can remember the rest of it. So that's pretty much that. So yes, the arrows. So that's pretty much it. That's we got to what I expect. StringStreams and function overloading. We didn't get to pointers. That's okay. Maybe tomorrow after the review, if the review doesn't go as long. So the plan for the review is I'm gonna do a quick overview of everything we covered that will be on the potential test, which is basically the syllabus. I'm just gonna go through the syllabus, through the topics, and just go over that. Now I can't cover 20 days worth of material potentially in 2 hours, of course. So I'm only going to touch each subject briefly. After I finish covering everything, though, or as I go, maybe, yeah, as I go, you can do that. I expect you guys to ask questions if you want me to focus more on a specific subject and things like that. So try to come prepared with some questions that you may have, such as that you may still be rough on. Now, don't just tell me like how does a for loop work, because I can show you the syntax of a for loop, but I can't read, you know, I mean, I don't know what I could do at that point. So basically bring subjects that you want me to focus on, and then of course if nobody asks a question, then sure, I can actually focus on doing a for loop if nobody else has any other questions. But other than that, then I will just go over it. If nobody has any questions on for loops, if nobody has questions on any of the review stuff, then I don't expect the review to take 2 hours. And so at that time, I can cover some pointer stuff, or I can end the day. We'll see how it depends on how much time we have. But do try to bring some questions. And I actually have a feeling very few people will ask questions. So if you do really want me to cover something again, I could. But I mean, look at the midterm review that we kind of sort of did on Twitch, and how we somebody asked about file streams, so I kind of showed over that. So I could kind of do that kind of thing. That will be on the review will be on Twitch. I don't expect to go over the test like I did last time, because you know what to expect. If I do have any sort of specific test review once the test is complete, where I, like last time, I sit down and tell you what the topic of each question is, I'll let you know through Twitch. I'll let you know through Discord, and we do that through Twitch, not YouTube. And if that happens, that might be like on Thursday after my meeting or before the meeting. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Expect it to be the same style as the midterm. Expect it to be more focused on the later aspects of the course, but it is a comprehensive test in the sense that you can expect everything. I mean, think about it. Like, even today, I use if statements. I use include IOStream at the top of my program. I used all these basic concepts that we learned, right? I use loops, all these things that you already been tested on, because we kind of have to use them to code more complicated stuff, right? The one thing that's kind of unique is like file streams, you know. So that might not be covered again, because that's kind of a special thing. Unless the program that you're coding in a test requires a file stream. I will try and make the test be more focused, where I'm asking you more just like, here, write this program, and that's it. That's a full program. But at the same time, I don't want to just make it a single kind of question sort of deal, because then if you don't know that, then you're screwed. And that's kind of sucks, because you might actually know the rest of the stuff. So it's a big debate. So I'll keep you updated. But unless anything comes up, then that's pretty much the plan. So try to come up with questions tomorrow. And that's it. I hope you guys have a good day. Stay safe. So, bye guys.